Okay, hi everyone. This is Dawson Gage, and I'm making this video from my house, my apartment. I'm here at 513 Orange Street, Wilmington, North Carolina. And this is my brief and mostly poetic endorsement of Kamala Harris for president. I already made my endorsement earlier this year. I made my endorsement in August. I, in fact, endorsed Vice President Harris on the very same day that Taylor Swift did, and I even went to the trouble of recording a super mega live album and putting it on SoundCloud, and it's called Kamala's Law, the unofficial soundtrack of Kamala Harris for president. And so I've been, like, during these couple months on house arrest and, dealing with this unbelievable oppression and, besides that, the vicissitudes and contingencies of 37-year-old life here in my home city. A lot of things on my mind, a lot of things to deal with. And yet, I've been living and dying with Kamala and with her presidential bid since March this year, since the 5th of March, when I got out of jail, went straight home, got on the computer, and sent a Twitter direct message to Anderson Clayton, who I'd been writing for some time, and I said, the first thing I saw was Anderson Clayton's Instagram or something, and it showed her, the chair of our North Carolina Democratic Party, or maybe not ours, but anyway, the North Carolina Democratic Party, with Vice President Harris. And I said, oh, it's so good to see that you spend some time with the Vice President. And that was the seed of my idea. I said, somebody should go to Washington and tell Biden to step aside. So the 5th of March this year, primary day in North Carolina, I was writing Anderson Clayton, who herself worked for the Harris campaign in 2020. And so here in North Carolina, with two Kamala Harris supporters on primary day, making connection and seeing that Kamala had an opening, not merely to become president, but to move in a different direction. That is always in America the allure of our democratic elections, because while each subsequent election does seem in so many ways to close the horizon of possibility, we can't seem to close it completely. And in this moment, where our presidency, in the country, is so terribly adrift, and the unbelievably sad and sick consequences of the Biden administration, which I opposed from day one. And while we don't need to necessarily agree about everything that went wrong in the Biden administration, we do need to be honest about the real possibility, indeed the fact, of what might be called imperial decay, or grand chauvinist degeneration, or simply the decline of states after a certain amount of time. America has been around for quite some time, and as President Lincoln said in his Gettysburg Address, the question is whether we will long endure. How long will we endure? The idea, I think, should be that we will endure a very long time, but not merely to endure, but to rise to ever higher levels and ever greater heights of civilization, of culture, and of democracy. And so, with that statement, I just want to say that after everything I've been through as America's most tortured poet and most persecuted political prisoner, the only person in the United States to really have done a lot of time in jail, hospital, and prison for his writing, for my work as a poet and as a journalist, whether it be my private correspondence with people on text messages, letters. I don't know where these people who have accused me or who have seen fit to judge me, I don't know where they learned about this country, but I learned about this country from the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights begins by saying Congress shall make no law, and eventually you learn that according to the doctrine of incorporation, that applies to the states too. So the First Amendment applies to everything, and state law cannot be used to deprive you of your right to speak and to publish freely. That is what I do for a living. And so my hope, and the reason why I decided to support Kamala Harris for president, is that my own relationship to her career is quite personal, because at the age of, 24, I guess. In 2011, I escaped from the state of North Carolina to the state of California, just after Kamala Harris had taken office as California's Attorney General, after leaving her position as the district attorney in San Francisco. And I landed on Alameda Island. I was with my partner, who I'd only been with for a relatively short period of time, Margaret Jo, who I met at UNC Chapel Hill. And Maggie and I, through a sort of tentative process, decided, let's just go to California. Okay. To California we went. And I've known a lot about California from music and from cinema, I guess. But the place which I found, which was California under the interpretation of law as given by Kamala Harris, And I guess it's also worth mentioning that this was the era of, of Governor Jerry Brown, or like Jerry Brown got back into office around that time. So Jerry Brown, Kamala Harris. Compared with the North Carolina of around that time, like right after the GOP had taken over, right after the victory of Pat McCrory or whatever, I guess McCrory was on his way. Meanwhile, what I'm saying is that at that time, escaping from North Carolina to California offered so many attractions and gave me a whole new vista and a whole new understanding of what America really is. And so my idea of America is very much the same idea as that of Kamala Harris. And I don't think that one can do any better in choosing a president than to have a president who really thinks the same thing about this country as I do. My ideas are rather different in many ways, but my religious, philosophical, whatever ideas are different from Kamala Harris. But as far as what we think this country is, what it's about, what it should be, what it could be, then I was prepared to endorse Kamala without really thinking too much about it, and so I did. So I conclude with two poems, sort of 2.5 poems. One of which I wrote when I was in California in exile. This poem's written in San Francisco in Kamala Harris country, and the second one is a poem that I wrote for our chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party, Anderson Clayton, which I wrote in jail for this year. So we're going to do two poems. Two which celebrate the theme of Kamala Harris's city and county, San Francisco, and the other one which celebrates a certain idea of the Democratic Party, which might be lost at this point, but is not altogether irrelevant. So again, I don't even know if these poems have names, but it goes like this. California, she insists that every Friday spark. Drunken shouts vibrate the mist and streetlights cut the dark. Check some pleasures off your list and congregate the park. Destiny invites a tryst. Her lipstick leaves a mark. Idyllic calm on Friday, fed to a satellite dream of an ocean burning America, yours and mine. Okay, so now let's do this one, which is written on the 2nd day of May this year, 2024. It's called In a Modest Proposal for the Democratic Party, for Anderson Clayton, with love. When people ask, how did you meet? We'll say, on a cloud in the pale blue sky. Though it's not so much how, but why. Because spirits are low and the rent is too high, and the teachers don't know, so the students don't try, so the children can't grow, and the grown-ups all cry. People float to and fro, and they work till they die. When they ask, why did you meet? We'll say, that's why. When people ask, where will you sleep? We'll say, on the straw of the longleaf pines. Though it's hard to say where if we don't know when, since there's money to spare and black ink in the pen. There are crowds at the fair made of women and men, and not one of them care if we get up at 10. If we ever get there, maybe we can rest then. When they ask, when will you sleep? We'll say, that's when. When people ask, who will you call? We'll say, every single last one of you all. Though whoever we call is only to serve. We'll get up when we fall, and we won't lose our nerve. We'll just bounce like a ball and then bend like a curve with the world in our thrall, because we do it with verve. Though the orders are tall, it is what they deserve. When they ask, who will you serve? We'll say, that's here. When people ask, what is your plan? We'll say, to be rather than to seem. Though it's less of a plan and more like a dream. If we know what we are, there's no need for a scheme. We'll just burn like a star and then flow like a stream till we stick like the tar and we spread like a meme. We'll get so very far if we work as a team. When they ask, what is your dream? We'll say, this dream. So this is Dawson Gage recording from 513 Orange Street, Wilmington, in the heart of the 1898 permanent war zone. Down with Ben David, kick him out of the Harrelson Center and exorcise him and send him down to the depths of hell. Down with Ben David. Josh Stein, don't even bother coming to Wilmington anymore. This place is not your city. Josh Stein is not welcome here as far as I'm concerned, and like anyone else who wants to get on board with that, let's do it. No Governor Josh Stein here. Josh Stein is not the governor of 513 Orange Street, and so he might as well not bother coming to Wilmington. That is a statement of endorsement for Kamala Harris for president. Hopefully by the time come January, we will have the first woman president of the United States, and not just that, somebody who, as I say, shares my idea of America and whose story connects with my own. So I can only feel encouraged in an otherwise bleak set of circumstances that perhaps there is light on the horizon. And perhaps also something other than light, a promised land, as former President Obama titled his book. With that note of conclusion, I send this up to the internet, and let's see, one more thing. Nah, I forget it. All right, peace, love, and Orange Street.